Okay, college trig people, we are going to introduce reference and coterminal angles later. Not that important right now. We are going to dive into trigonometric functions of real numbers. So here's where we get to something you've seen before, such as sine of theta. So it's spelled S-I-N-E, sine of theta. It's not times theta. And this is the word that we use. We abbreviate it to be this. Please don't say sin. And if you consider the unit circle, what we say is that if you're working in the unit circle and you have a terminal point right here that has an x value and a y value and then a radius value, we say that the sine of the angle theta is equal to the y value divided by the radius. And so if the radius is 1, then you get y in the unit circle. Cosine in the unit circle is defined as x over r. So again, that's cosine. Don't say cos. It's x divided by r, which is simply just your x value in the unit circle. Tangent of theta, please don't say tan. The tangent of theta is y divided by x. Y divided by x. So simply divide the two coordinates. And in a unit circle, that ends up being y divided by x. Doesn't change because the fact that the radius is different doesn't matter. All right, in cosecant, this is cosecant. Turns out that it is the reciprocal of cosine, sine. So it's 1 over sine. So that would be r over y, or in the unit circle, it is simply 1 over y. Secant of theta is 1 over cosine of theta, which is r over x, or in the unit circle, 1 over x. And then cotangent of theta is going to be 1 over tangent of theta. It is the reciprocal, which would be x over y. In the unit circle, that remains x over y. So those are 6 trigonometric functions that you need to know. The earlier you can commit them to memory, the better off it is. So let's look at what we are determining right now. It says draw a picture and use special triangles to calculate the exact value of the following trigonometric functions. So in this situation, it's asking us to determine the sine of pi over 3. Well, first of all, what I do is I draw a picture and I determine pi over 3. Pi over 3 is 60 degrees, so I have a 60-degree angle. In order to determine the sine of pi over 3, I need to determine this terminal point. What we have learned so far in this unit is that the radius is always 1, the shorter side is half, and then we multiply by the square root of 3 to get the longer side. So the terminal point is 1/2 root of 3 over 2. So that means that the sine of pi over 3 is equal to simply the square root of 3 over 2. The cosine of pi over 3, which we're not asked to find, but that would be 1/2. It would be the x value. And the tangent of pi over 3 would be the root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. As I divide those, I would multiply by the reciprocal, and you would cancel and get simply the root of 3. So when it asks for the square root of 3, we identify root of 3 over 2. We're going to switch this example. Instead of the cosine of negative 5 pi over 3, we're going to choose the cosine of 7 pi over 6. Cosine of 7 pi over 6, first we determine the angle. Pi over 6 is 30. So therefore, 7 pi over 6 will be 210 degrees. If that is 180, that is then 30 degrees past. We try to find the terminal point. terminal point is there. We know that the side is 1. And if the side is 1, then what we know is that the vertical part is half of that, and the longer part is the root of 3 over 2. So the terminal point, as it's in the third quadrant, is negative root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. So again, we're not doing that. We're doing cosine of 7 pi over 6. So therefore, the cosine of 7 pi over 6, it is the x value, which is negative root of 3 over 2. If it asks for the sine value of 7 pi over 6, you would say it would be negative 1/2. If it asks for the tangent of 7 pi over 6, you would take negative 1/2 and divide it by negative root of 3 over 2. This is different than the last one. Watch what happens in this example. Negative 1 over 2 times the reciprocal, 2 over negative root of 3. Those cancel, leaving with negative 1 over negative root of 3. Can't leave a radical in the denominator. I get the root of 3 over 3. That is the tangent value. Let's look at the last one here, the tangent of 7 pi over 4. The pi over 4 tells me that it is a 45-degree angle. 7 of those places me right over here at 315 degrees. 45-degree angle. Let's find the terminal point so we can determine the tangent. The terminal point, we know that the radius is 1. If we divide by the square root of 2, we get 1 over the root of 2. Multiply the top and bottom by the root of 2, and we get root of 2 over 2. Root of 2 over 2. It's in the fourth quadrant, so it will be positive root of 2 over 2 and negative root of 2 over 2. So therefore, you know that the sine of 7 pi over 4 is equal to the root of 2, negative root of 2 over 2. It's the y value. The cosine of 7 pi over 4 is equal to the root of 2 over 2. The tangent, you divide those two. Notice they are the same, except they're different by a factor of negative 1. So therefore, the answer is negative 1. So your objective in your assignment is going to be to determine those important values. Now, I'm going to bring up your worksheet. I apologize that some of your assignments got a little bit out of order. So you're currently looking at exact values of sine and cosine in section 5.2. Don't do the trigonometric one. Okay, we focus on this one. And notice that in this situation, we start off with identifying the terminal point, and then using that to identify the, hold on, my smartboard's acting up on me. There we go, I've got it back. Okay, so we're actually going to determine 3 values in this situation. I'll do a couple with you. Pi over 6 is 30 degrees. So we construct a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Always know that the radius is 1. The short side will be a half, and this longer side will be root of 3 over 2. So therefore, the terminal point, or the coordinate, is root of 3 over 2, 1/2. For sine, you choose the y value. For cosine, you choose the x value. For tangent, you divide them. You do end up with the root of 3 over 3 when you simplify that. So that will take care of this section for you as you work through that. Sorry, my smartboard is acting up. As you move to the back here, okay, you're looking to determine the exact value of these following. And as you work through those, let's look at one that's a little bit different. Okay, so let's look at, say, cosecant of pi over 6. Well, we just learned that the sine of pi over 6 was in fact 1/2. So therefore, cosecant will be the reciprocal, and so it will be 2. Okay, you're only looking to determine one value there. And finally, in this section, it says use a calculator to determine the exact value of the following. Not exact value. It should be to the nearest hundredth. Sorry, modifying stuff and handing it out to you ahead of time. Sometimes I make mistakes and I don't get to correct it then. So we look at it here. There's an important function that you need to understand on your calculator. So let's just take 30 degrees as we've used that example. As you press mode, notice that your calculator works in radians or degrees. Okay, I'm going to press degrees and you're going to see what happens here. I'm going to take the sine of 30 degrees. We've already established that that is 1/2. There you have it. If you go back into mode and you press radian, if you were to type in the sine of 30 degrees and you were in radians, you would not get the correct answer. But if I would press the sine of pi divided by 6, notice that you do get the correct answer. You get 0.5. So if you're in degrees, use your degree mode. If you're not in degrees, use your radian mode. And that will help you as you work through that. Finally, if you're considering something different, one that you do not have on your calculator, cotangent of negative 156, you don't have a button for cotangent. So what you do is you do 1 divided by the tangent of negative 156. Notice 156 is not a degree, it is a radian. Make sure you're in the radian mode. And then you can simply just type 1 divided by the tangent of negative 156. So if you are having secant or cotangent or cosecant, please notice that you need to use 1 divided by in that situation. So use your mode and use 1 divided by and you should be okay to go. Okay, folks, that takes you through what you should be able to have in order to complete this worksheet. I think you're going to do great. Good luck, and we will see you soon in class.